In this video, we're talking about severe weather and lots of it. The Storm Prediction Center has issued a slight risk of severe weather today, an enhanced risk of severe weather tomorrow, a slight risk on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. This pattern carries us into the last moments of October as we enter November, where things start to look even more interesting. Welcome back, y'all. Ryan Hall here with the weather forecast. I'm sorry for my recent absence, but I am back now, and I'm going to be posting daily as we go through this upcoming severe weather sequence. Thankfully, while I was gone, the weather was mostly quiet, but we did have a surprise regional outbreak of tornadoes in northeastern Ohio and western portions of Pennsylvania. Several tornadoes ripped through areas like the Jackson Township of Ohio, where Matthew Bieber sent me these photos. Days like that remind people like me that we still have a lot to learn about severe weather and tornadoes. And it should remind you that it's important to be prepared for the worst even when there's only a slight risk of severe weather. Now, without further ado, let's stop talking about the past and look at the future as we continue to talk about the weather. All right, here's a big old look at the United States of America, and just briefly looking at the radar, you can't really tell anything's going on at all. However, if we zoom in here on the Kansas and Missouri area, you can see that we do have some showers and thunderstorms out there. Some of these are producing really heavy rain, and we have this big yellow area up here from Kansas City all the way up to just south of Omaha, Nebraska. This is our slight risk of severe weather today. We do expect some big time thunder boomers out here, even bigger than the ones that are happening right now to your south. And this is the first part, the leading edge of the massive storm and constant severe weather outbreak that we're going to have over the next, 8 days or so? So buckle in and let's start taking a look at those weather models. All right, we're starting off with the good old trusty NAM 3-kilometer model, and we're looking at the simulated radar. This is what the radar could look like as we go into the future. And these showers and thunderstorms have kind of expanded and moved off to the east here, filling up more of southern Missouri and moving into portions of western Kentucky here, okay? So again, once again, these are not the severe storms that we are expecting today, but they could cause some very heavy rain, especially there in Missouri and maybe even portions of southern Illinois and western Kentucky as we go later on into the day. It's not necessarily that area of rain and thunderstorms that we're really watching though, okay? As we get later on into the day, around 6 p.m., you can see some snow showers and rain showers starting to form over here in Wyoming, portions of Utah, southern Montana. This is associated with a new low pressure system, another big storm, our first massive storm here that's got a little bit of a warm front out in front of it and the ability to spark some big severe thunderstorms. Once again, check this out. It's going to be quite late when this starts, probably around 11 p.m., 10 or 11 p.m. Central time there, but in northeastern Kansas, southeastern portions of Nebraska, northern Missouri, we're going to see a line of thunderstorms, once again, associated with that warm front pop up here, and we could see some severe weather, okay? We're talking about hail, we're talking about extremely heavy rain, and some isolated areas with damaging wind. Now, I don't think the tornado threat is going to be huge out here today, but still, it's a very dangerous situation if you get under the wrong storm with those winds over 70 miles an hour possibly, and even some big hail. So let's be ready for that. Now, it does look like most of the action is going to take place north of Kansas City, even though you're in that slight risk. I'm not saying let your guard down, but I do think that, once again, the most of the big storms tonight and early tomorrow morning are going to happen to your north. One of the areas I'm most concerned with is right here in northern Missouri, and not necessarily because of the intensity of the storms, but as you can see, as we go all the way out here into 7, 8, 9 a.m. tomorrow, we've still got heavy rain training over these same areas over and over again, and this is telling me that we're probably going to see some flash flooding, okay? So not only do we have to worry about the hail and damaging winds, but we have to worry about flash flooding out here because this is not going to be your normal rainfall, okay? When you get these kind of thunderstorms draining over you over and over again, there's going to be some areas that possibly see 5, 6, 7 inches of rain in a very short period of time, and those waterways cannot handle that, and you're going to see some overflowing, possibly some flooded roadways, flooded streets, and stuff like that, and it could happen really quick and in a dangerous fashion. So let's be ready for the potential for flash flooding out here, and that risk also extends over here into Illinois as well. Look at this. We got snow showers up here in North Dakota. I can't wait until we're talking about snowstorms, man. I do enjoy helping people out in forecasting severe weather. I think that this channel has provided some value in that aspect. But my favorite thing is to forecast snow. I love snow. I can't wait until that blue is all the way down here. But that is not the case right now. We are talking about severe weather. Let me show you how much rain we're expecting through 9 a.m. on Sunday. Look at this. Once again, a very small streak of area there in northern Missouri could see upwards of 7 inches of rain, which is once again a very concerning situation for the possibility of flash flooding. Also, some heavy rain down here in southern Missouri, southeastern portions of Kansas, and maybe right there in northeastern portions of Oklahoma as well. But pretty much the whole state of Missouri needs to watch out for those isolated flooding problems as we go forward. A lot of times, whenever we're expecting a lot of severe weather, the flooding is overlooked, but ends up being the most dangerous and deadly part. So make sure you are prepared for this, especially if you're in a flood-prone area. Now, as we head deeper into tomorrow, okay, here we are around noon, this low pressure system, this storm over here is going to spark another line of storms, some more storms in pretty much the same areas, but tomorrow's storms are expected to be a little bit stronger, okay? And that's because instead of the warm front being the main area of interest, we are actually now seeing a cold front and a dry line over here on this side. So we've got all this warm air streaming up this way, and now we've got all this cold and dry air streaming down behind the low pressure system. And right there where they meet, it's the, once again, it's that typical fall storm system where we get a lot of clashing of air masses, and anything can happen out here. So that's why we do have that enhanced risk of severe weather for tomorrow. This includes a pretty broad area from northern Arkansas through much of Missouri into the St. Louis area and even into western portions of Illinois. We do have a 10% hatched risk of tornadoes. So that means that there's a 10% chance of significant tornadoes, EF2 or higher, and that includes the St. Louis region. We got a 30% chance of damaging hail and a 30% chance of significant damaging winds. So this is a serious situation, okay? Anytime you get that 10% hatched risk of tornadoes, especially on a day 2 outlook, it pretty much almost always means that we will likely see an upgrade to a moderate risk, which means that we're going to get a live stream on this channel, and that probably there's going to be some bad tornadoes out there. So we got to really talk about this next storm in depth, and that's what I'm going to do now. First of all, let's go through the radar timing here on the NAM 3 kilometer. And as you can see, already around 3 p.m., we're going to see some big storms popping up here through much of Missouri and eastern portions of Kansas. You see all this stuff up here in Nebraska, Iowa, and Illinois. Most of this is just going to be heavy rain. Most of the forcing and the really strong storms are going to be happening down here on the southern portion along these lines, the cold front and the dry line there. Now, the good news is a lot of these models are showing a scenario where we have 2 lines, okay? So we have a big area of convection out here, and one of these is going to steal energy from the other, or they're both going to steal energy from each other, which means that the storms inside of each one could be lessened in intensity. That is no reason to let your guard down, though, because especially this front leading one, or even this rear one, depending on the dynamics of exactly what's happening out there that day, I do think we're going to see at least a couple significant tornadoes out of this. Very strong low pressure system spinning up there in southeastern Nebraska. Look at that. You can literally see the comma head shape there. That's going to be one amazing looking satellite image. All this warm air streaming up here, cool air on the backside, and then just rapid rotation around that central area of low pressure. This cold front here is going to steal the show by around 7 p.m. And it's between this time, between 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. and a little bit afterwards, that we really do expect to see some of those supercell thunderstorms start to pop up. You can see that front leading area of precipitation is kind of letting up, allowing for some clearing ahead of these storms over here with the cold front, which means that any of these storms that pop up ahead of that line could be supercellular in nature, root up, and really spin and cause some big time naders there around 7 p.m. tomorrow. And as we go later on into the evening, even as we go into the 10 p.m. time frame, these storms are approaching St. Louis. They are now in northwestern portions of Arkansas and here in eastern Oklahoma, but they do get weaker, okay? After around 8 or 9 p.m., they start to weaken, but we're still going to see the very real opportunity for tornadoes to form here as we get through this period. It's really not until we see these storms get further into Illinois, southern portions of Missouri, and central portions of Arkansas where the tornado threat really starts to decrease because the storms become a little bit more disorganized and linear in nature. And it's at this point from 2 a.m. all the way into the 4 a.m. time frame where the tornado threat is diminished significantly, and we just have a minimal straight line damaging wind threat here from Texas into southern portions of Arkansas, maybe into western Tennessee, western Kentucky, and Indiana. And it is going to continue to move east after this, but we're going to wait and talk about that, okay? For now, let's go back a little bit and talk more about the tornado threat and the hail threat and stuff for tomorrow. I've been talking a lot about moisture coming up this way and cold air coming down this way. Here's proof that I'm not lying about that. As we go forward, you can see that low pressure system's right there. We have a warm sector, a warm nose here, moving up through Arkansas and Missouri, meeting up very sharply with a dry line of very low dew points in the 40s and 30s back here in Kansas. And especially where they meet in such an abrupt way that we we will see those big storms popping up. Here's another map that we're all too familiar with here this storm season. This is the 850 millibar winds. Okay, this is the winds above our heads. In the lower levels of the jet streak is what we call it. In storms like this, where we're looking at the southeastern quadrant for the formation of possible supercells, it's very important to analyze this layer of wind, because the more intense that this is, in combination with the inflow on the surface and the upper level winds around 500 millibars, the more likely we are to see tornadoes. Okay, so I call this stuff right here tornado juice or nader juice, whatever you want to call it. Okay, if you don't want to get into the technical stuff, if you don't want to learn meteorology, I'm okay with that. I'm just here to inform you. Just know that the red stuff and the brown stuff here in combination with the storms is tornado juice. Okay, so as you can see, we got a lot of it out there, especially as we reach the 5 to 7 p.m. time frame. Now, don't be fooled, okay? You see a lot of this tornado juice over here in southeastern portions of Missouri, northern portions of Arkansas, over here in Illinois and Indiana. This doesn't matter, okay? You can have all the tornado juice in the world that you want, but you're not going to get tornadoes unless you have storms as well. And if we keep this frame up right here and we flip from the 850 millibar winds back to precipitation, you can see this is where we have the storms. This is where we have the isolated possible supercells. There is a little lone cell over here that we would possibly have to watch near St. Louis if this is actually how the radar looked. But once again, the main thing that we're looking at over here is this area of storms in combination with these wind speeds. Okay, so we've got 850 millibar winds around 40 or 50 knots, and they kind of increase as we go to the east and really ramp up there to possibly around 70 knots in Illinois around 1 a.m. But the good news is a lot of those storms are weakening at this point. So I do think, once again, the biggest threat for tornadoes is going to be over here in Missouri. I am personally not expecting a widespread outbreak of tornadoes because even though this is a very dynamic setup, it's a massive storm, it's a strong storm, we've definitely seen 850 millibar winds way stronger than this this year, and not seen a lot of tornadoes come out of it. So it's really going to depend on the mode of storms that we get. If we do get a lot of supercells, there's going to be some tornadoes, but if we do get a very quickly linear system of storms moving through, I think that the maximum tornado number will be limited quite a bit. But like I always say, if that one tornado that happens, even if there's only one, if it comes down your street, it's going to change your life forever. So let's go ahead and be prepared anywhere that's in that enhanced risk, or even the slight risk. Now let's take a look at all those parameters put together and kind of compiled into a model for us called the significant tornado parameter. We are seeing values around 8 here in Missouri and southeastern Kansas there on the significant tornado parameter, possibly around 9 as we get closer to the St. Louis area there. So really right here in central Missouri, I'm kind of concerned once again for some tornadoes. If we do get those big significant tornadoes, they're going to happen somewhere between Kansas City and St. Louis. And then that significant tornado parameter is going to decrease as we go later on into the night. If we do get some of those big storms here in northwestern Arkansas around 10 p.m. to midnight, we could see some tornadic activity, but really it fades out very quickly as it goes off to the east. And that's pretty much all I have to say about that, okay? I'm going to have another video tomorrow and possibly even a live stream going over this even more. So make sure you are subscribed with notifications on so you don't miss anything about that. All right, so now we're moving over to the east a little bit, and once again, we are going to see this move east. And we do have a slight risk of severe weather on Monday for this very same storm, okay, over here a little bit further to the east in the Mid-Atlantic and Appalachian regions. And unfortunately, the NAM 3-kilometer model doesn't really take us far enough to where we can see what's going to happen here. You can see this line of storms really weakens out, but very clearly there's still a cold front here, and some storms are likely going to start really re-firing around 2 to 3 p.m. in this area in eastern Tennessee, eastern Kentucky, portions of Virginia, North Carolina, West Virginia. We're going to see these storms refire and kind of cause some problems over here in this region. Now, if we switch over to the 12-kilometer NAM, we can see what's going to happen a little bit further into the future, but we lose a lot of that resolution. So you really can't tell a lot about what's going on here. The main thing to note is that this is going to cause more severe weather over here in the Mid-Atlantic and Appalachian regions, but it's probably not going to be as bad as what we're seeing off to the west. Now, that doesn't change the fact that it's probably going to be pretty bad, because it's not very often that we see a day 3 slight risk risk in this area. In fact, I'm included in this. This is the first day 3 slight risk that I've been in a long time. So I might be out there in the Storm Seeker chasing naders right here in my hometown. Who knows? But we will talk a lot more about this as we get more information, possibly tomorrow and of course the next day. All right, so now we are talking about the next massive storm that's coming in. As if one wasn't enough, here's the first one that we're watching right now. A big low pressure system bowling ball crashing through the northern portion of the U.S., causing all kinds of problems. And as you can see, it kind of stalls out here in the northeast and becomes a pretty deep low pressure system. It's going to try to pull in a lot of cold air up here. It's going to be very cold in the upper peninsula of Michigan into Ontario. And it's also going to bring up a lot of moist air too. So tons of rain over here in the northeast. Look out for the flooding risk over there, really, around Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. That is going to be a ton of rain right there. So make sure you're ready for that. Also, days of just miserable, wet, windy, cool weather there in New York. And then we got another one. Here's our next big, massive storm coming in. This is storm number 2, once again with a severe weather risk in the Midwest here. As you can see, the Storm Prediction Center has already outlined that. And of course, it does move off to the east, where once again, we have more severe weather down here. And the Storm Prediction Center has already outlined that. And this is rare, guys. Like we have severe weather, risks for the next 5 days. It's possible that we will see them for the next 8 days as this goes forward. So as we push this on through, it does continue to move east. And once again, really stalls out here in the northeast. And in the wintertime, this would be a full-on blizzard. Okay, this is a nor'easter. This is literally a storm forms down here, kind of gathers some moisture in the Gulf of Mexico and bombs out on the east coast. This is your classic nor'easter. We just don't have enough cold air in place to turn it into a blizzard. So it's just going to be a nor'easter with rain. Okay, very strong winds and a ton of rain up here in the northeast if this comes to fruition. Look at this. We've got winds around 40 to 50 miles an hour wind gusts. Just happening even outside of thunderstorms here in New Jersey, portions of Pennsylvania, southern New York, across Long Island. And, this is very likely going to cause power outage problems, because there's going to be so much rain. Everything's going to be loose, and you throw the wind on top of that. It's kind of like a very weak tropical storm, but it's a nor'easter up here on the East Coast. So get ready for that. We'll talk more about that in the future. And now let's do a brief overview of the weather for the whole U.S., okay? Once again, there's our 1-2 punch of our massive storms that are coming through. And look at this. Something interesting here is both of these storms that form in the Midwest are fueled by massive areas of precipitation and big storms over here on the West Coast. Okay, we've got what we call an atmospheric river of moisture coming in through the Pacific Northwest into Northern California. They're getting a ton of rain. Okay, a lot of snow, especially in the higher elevations. This is going to cause a lot of problems over here, especially the second wave that is expected to happen tomorrow into Monday. Lots of rain expected over here, lots of snow, lots of wind. And once again, that is what sparks our next massive storm that comes up through here and eventually parks itself over New York. And then after that, it does look like we get a little bit calmer, okay? We get a ridge and some warmer air and drier air propagating up here into the southwestern portion of the U.S., into the Midwest and northern portion. But we do have this low pressure system that's going to try to bring down even more cold air from the north, from Canada, into Montana and South Dakota and North Dakota. Look here, we've got snow in North Dakota on Saturday, October 30th. And then that low is really going to try to bring down the cold air all the way into Ohio and Indiana, possibly on Monday, November 1st, with some snow in the upper peninsula of Michigan and, of course, in Ontario there. And this is it, guys. This is the 540 line. This is what we look for in the winter. The lower that goes and the more energy it interacts with to the south, the more snow we get. So I think that we could be in for some early snow here as we go forward, as this big area of cold air gets locked in. It does look very interesting to me. I'm going to have much more on this once we get past our very serious severe weather outbreak. I'm going to talk a lot about my thoughts about how winter's going to go and how much snow I think everybody can get as we go forward. And that's all the weather talk that we have for you today. Echo, say hi. You see yourself, don't you? He sees himself. Hey, Echo. Echo, say hi to the people. You got to replace me one day. You got to be the weatherman on YouTube one day. See what he thinks about the tornado warning. Fortunately, I'm probably going to have to press this button tomorrow.
A new tornado warning has been issued.
One of these days, he's going to give us a weather forecast, but I think he's a little overwhelmed by the lights. But yeah, it's about 7:30 as I'm filming this, and Echo just woke up. So I'm going to let you get back to it. And guys, we'll see you in the next one, all right? Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.